Two things. Okay, first, I'm in South Korea, right? And me and the guys were sitting around and we were talking, and turns out a lot of South Koreans think that democracy and America suck. Who knew, right? Okay, so we were discussing about it, fighting about it for a long time. The conclusion we came to is that, because they were drawing conclusions. They said Bush is just like Osama bin Laden, is just like pretty much every dictator or leader that ever was, right? Okay, and we agree. Okay, fine. We'll take that as okay. But what we ended up deciding was that all governments are evil, right? Because all governments are kind of like a dude, and dudes, hate on each other and make mistakes, big mistakes, do a little drugs, and then whatever, or something like that. I don't know. So, oh god, here we go. Whatever. Point is that governments make mistakes and they're recorded in history by 1,000 little scrutinizing eyes. I mean, if someone went through my head and recorded every little filing mistake or everything that I ever did that I thought was cool at the time and was right at the time but wasn't, and then we'd talk about it and there'd be a really bad thing going on there. They'd say, oh my god, that Two Pillows man, he's crazy. He is straight up crazy because of what he did. He's evil from the core, right? So we decided that the governments all governments are evil. Straight up, governments evil. Governments equal evil, right? Okay, but the governments that work are the ones that give the people the most power. What are you talking about, right? Okay, if you wanted to, right? I mean, because if a government really doesn't have checks and balances, it can just keep going on with the evil. There isn't a lot of people to say, hey, that's evil, and point it out. And the governments, if you want to keep your government money job, right, you got to do whatever the people are kind of telling you at the time, or the fears they have. Maybe go to war in Iraq, right? Maybe. I mean, who knows? I'm just saying, the people have the power, right? Okay. So dictatorship, worst, because the people don't have the power. Democracy, best, at least for now, until something new comes out, right? Democracy, I don't know how old, like 300 years? I don't know, well, at least in sort of the form that existed. At least I think so. All right, but I mean, if you wanted to, you could go up and you could just take a huge, gigantic crap as a freedom of speech on the White House steps, right? Or whatever. They say, okay, these guys are coming in. They're going to spray paint obscenities. They're going to rip and burn American flags. They're going to say, fuck you, Bush. They're going to say, you're going to scream it right on a big old thing and say, fuck you, Bush. How many countries, how many, governments, go up to Kim Jong-il and say, hey, fuck you, Kim Jong-il, you are going down. Go up there and do the same thing to just about any other dictator. Things bad happen, right? Okay, so having said that, the whole people with the most power at least works in the governments, but all governments are inherently evil, all right, but anyway. Okay, so having said that, the whole Mujahideen thing, right? This is at least what I understand about that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but okay, Mujahideen is not specific to this point in history. There's a bunch of Mujahideen. It's kind of like saying soldier, and it's got a whole bunch of other meanings. Not the point. Point is, okay, we got these guys, right? And the Russians are coming down. They're bringing communism, evil, by the way, any government evil, but specifically communism is right there under dictatorship. So they come down and they're like, oh, we're going to make Afghanistan's communists, or whatever. We'll take over, something like that. Okay, Russians are doing that, right? Okay, so the Americans don't like communism, looking out for our interests. CIA, whatever, goes in there and says, hey, guys, here's some money. Here's a wee bit of training. You guys can sort of fight this thing. So that we have all these little tribes of money people, like Osama bin Laden, actually, who's one of the great financiers of Mujahideen, goes in there and he's like, okay, fight off the Russians. Boom. Okay, that's great. And Americans and Osama bin Laden are cool right now. Why? Because we're both not liking communism. Life is great, right? Okay, but then this thing happened. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember it was said that, like, Saudi Arabia, where Osama is from, actually, is like, doing something like, I think Iran was messing with it, or Iraq. Somebody comes down there and they're messing with Saudi Arabia, right? And Saudi Arabia and me are cool. I believe Saudi Arabia and America are cool. Completely, like, and have been for the longest time in the world. Saudi Arabia kind of rules. But anyway, so then, like, they're coming down and they're messing with Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is like, hey, we're going to need some help, we're going to need some protection, right? So Osama bin Laden's like, hey, I'm your money man. Man, I've been doing this Mujahideen thing, man. This is how I roll, right? The Russians, they was coming down, and then, you know, I repelled them, right? With, you know, some money and stuff that the Americans gave me. It's cool. No, because, you know, you are my homies. Because I am Osama, right? And then, you know, Saudi Arabia was like, you know, Osama, we're not picking up your option. We're not going that direction. The Americans offered their help, and frankly, they kind of trained you, sort of, to fend off the Russians. So, you know, we're not picking up your option, all right? You know, don't call us, we'll call you. And he got pissed. And he started making all sorts of religious claims that he didn't like, or that he wasn't able to make within the Muslim religion, or whatever, or Islam. I always get that twisted, Islam, or whatever, or which is to use at an appropriate time. But, you know, so then that's when, you know, the jihad against America goes. So, I don't know, I think I made my point. Point is, all governments are evil. And we weren't funding terrorism. I mean, well, I guess you could say we were funding terrorism because one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, right? Well, at the time it was a freedom fighter, sort of, you know. But now, when you start attacking, you're not really a freedom fighter anymore because you're not looking for liberation when you blow up the Twin Towers, right? I don't know, but who knows who blew those up anyway. I said my piece.